Hey guys, welcome back to a new pick a card reading. Today's reading is going to be your effect on them. This doesn't have to be, it could be any type of connection. It could be a platonic connection, people in general, perhaps. It could also be a romantic connection, whatever interests you, whatever's on your mind, and this is how you affect them, whoever that is. Um, just a little side note, I got a new candle. It's a lot bigger than the ones that I was using before. I had to like recycle the old ones. They were like running out of wax. So, new one, and I think it looks pretty nice. So, hopefully, it kind of sets up the tone of the reading, like for relaxing. Anyways, go ahead and pick your pile, and we'll get into your reading. Alright, pile one, welcome to your reading. Here's the mushroom card that you chose. Sure, some of you might already know what this is. I feel like it's a pretty popular mushroom. It's actually one of the ones that I've not eaten this mushroom, but I've had supplements of this mushroom for the health benefits. So yeah, you have the reishi mushroom. It says spirit medicine. Nourish your spirit by following what makes your heart sing. So I was gonna say, I just shuffled out these readings. I kind of didn't get too nosy with the other piles, but for some reason for your pile, I got kind of nosy. So I have a good memory of what's in your pile. And let's see, you have mindfulness, as well as Cayman, and Terminus. So the effect that you have on them. So first of all, I'm assuming that for many of you, we have the reishi mushroom and it's spirit medicine. And I don't know, I see that mushroom as being a very healing mushroom. That's why I took supplements of it, and it's why a lot of people tend to do that. And yeah, I kind of feel like maybe your sort of perspectives, especially more spiritual perspectives, kind of helps heal people, since we also have mindfulness here. It seems like you encourage people, okay, this reading is kind of similar to one of my other ones, which was how you unconsciously influence others. It's basically the same thing, like what's your effect on them, but maybe this is something that's maybe more conscious. But yeah, I feel like you kind of encourage people to like take things a little bit slower, be a little bit more cautious and essentially mindful. Like it seems like you encourage patience, because the Cayman card is kind of about like waiting and observing a situation before getting involved. So I think you encourage people to examine things closely, observe things closely, and maybe even like kind of seeing things beyond the surface. So and then you have Terminus. So I don't know. It makes me feel like the way you affect people or a specific person is, to me, it comes through as like maybe people not self-sabotaging a situation by rushing into something, before like kind of observing things closely. It feels like maybe there's people around you that act very quickly, impulsively. They don't really think about like exactly what they're doing or the sorts of either consequences. I would say it's maybe consequences that come afterwards, because there might be people around you that feel, or maybe you feel, that rushed into something, and maybe they weren't, because they were rushing, they weren't exactly seeing every part of the situation, which might have been, for me, like I would say, how I could relate to this, maybe, it doesn't really seem to be about love, but it could be like if it was a love situation, you would encourage someone to not rush into a relationship too early. Maybe because it's like you would be seeing things that the other person wouldn't. And to you, you would be taking things slow. Maybe you would be backing off. You would see the signs of like danger in a situation. Um, and you would catch those things early and maybe avoid certain, like, I guess, negative experiences through that. And I think there might be people around you that kind of rush into things, don't really think about things very seriously, and they miss certain details. And because they did rush in and miss certain details, it's like the situation became something that was a lot more negative than what they were expecting. Like, I could see it being a self sabotaging situation, like rushing into a relationship before seeing all the signs that someone's trustworthy, and then someone feeling betrayed because, you know, um, someone, maybe gave mixed signals or something like that, and this person only read the good things about the person, and, something like that. But I think, yeah, overall, it just seems like, and this doesn't even, it doesn't have to be about relationships. It could be about like the content that people are watching. It could also be about, like it also feels as if the way you affect people is to not have too high of expectations for things. It could be that there's people around you that had really high expectations for how something should have gone. And because, there wasn't an energy of mindfulness, of slowing down and being cautious or really observing the situation to see all sides of it, having a very limited view, could cause someone to feel like, things aren't right, people who struggle with patience, maybe they feel like things should move very quickly. And because things don't move as quickly as they're expecting, they decide to kind of self sabotage, something like that. So I kind of feel like that's basically your effect on people, is to just take things slow. And it seems like this sort of like impulsive energy that people have around you becomes too much for them to handle, which causes them to maybe give up on a situation that is still a good situation. They maybe their expectations are just too high. Otherwise, like, it could also be like my other example of like, just seeing, observing things closely before getting involved, so that you don't get hurt in a situation if it's like a love situation. And yeah, especially with the reishi mushroom, it seems like your effect on people is to kind of like, yeah, really pay attention to possibly like the content that they're consuming, or, even like the environments they're placing themselves in, the people that they're surrounding themselves with. It's like, if these people are bringing you negativity, be aware of that and maybe hold back a bit and be willing to be more cautious with your own energy, of who you're sharing your energy with or where you're taking your energy as far as like environments go. And part of it could also be with the terminus energy, that you encourage people to see things from different perspectives that they didn't see it before, which makes them feel like they are empowered to leave situations that don't make them happy. Like, it's okay. You don't have to stay in a situation that's making you feel negative. You can leave. You can end it. You have the power to do that if it doesn't bring you happiness, if it doesn't make your heart sing. So, I'm gonna pull some more cards, just a few probably, and see like what other things come through as far as like your effect on people or effect on this person. So what is pile one's effect on them? At this point, I should just shuffle, like, over my lap, because even when I shuffle over the table, they just fly out the other direction onto the floor. So you have renew. Nature continuously renews itself year after year. What is Pile One's effect on people or them? Okay, and we have growth. The tallest oak tree once started as a seedling. Don't be afraid to start something new. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Like, it seems like with this renew card, almost like, nature continuously renews itself year after year. It doesn't sound like a bad thing, but in this case, it makes me think of like people being stuck in sorts of cycles. That seems to be bringing them negativity, because it seems like your effect on people is like you care about what makes people happy. And even if like a person wants a situation to be good and they're seeing the potential of a situation, you might be the one who's showing them that, yeah, okay, a potential is great, but how do you feel right now? Because it seems like the people you're affecting feel somewhat negative about a situation, or it's you're encouraging them to, again, be more cautious with their energy, observe things a little bit deeper before getting involved with things, and be brave enough to, change your way of doing things. With growth, it's like, don't be afraid to start something new, which could even be putting an end to something. Kind of seems like what it is. Like, don't be afraid to cut out the things in your life that bring you negativity or don't bring you happiness. Don't feel like you need to stay committed to something. Like, as for example, like, a lot of people feel committed to their jobs, even though their job is like draining the life out of them. But they make a lot of excuses for why they can't leave their job, or they feel, somewhat responsible to stay at that job or something like that. Or there's like a fear that they're not going to find something better. I could see these types of things coming up, and you kind of encourage people to be like, well, it doesn't make sense. Like, you live this life and you're in charge of your experience, for the most part. So, if you're putting yourself in environments that make you feel drained and unhappy, take yourself out of that environment. Don't be afraid to start something new and move away from the things that don't bring you happiness. And generally, like, any time, and spiritually especially, people's perspective tends to be like, when you stay in a situation that brings you negativity, it's almost like you're telling the universe, like, I accept this. I feel that this is okay for me. And sorry. I've heard this perspective from some, like, spiritual people, that when they say no to a situation and they don't accept a negative situation, and it's essentially saying, to the universe, I deserve more than this, or I won't accept this, something like that. And I do feel like, the worst thing you can kind of do is just, accept a bad situation and not do anything to change it. If you do put effort into changing a negative situation, most likely it's going to get better, eventually, at some point. So I'm going to pull some tarot cards next to see more of like your effect on them. What's Pile One's effect on them? Okay, we have the Three of Swords. And you see that kind of came out reversed, and I do feel like it's kind of a healing thing, but it comes from like acknowledging what hurts us. I feel like there could be people around you who feel hurt by a situation, kind of accepting the situation for what it is, even if it's negative. And I think your energy comes in and says, you don't have to accept it. If it brings you pain, if it brings you heartbreak, if it brings you negativity, you can end it. You can walk away from it. You can find something better than that. What is Pile One's effect on them? And we have the Ten of Pentacles. What is Pile One's effect on them? And we have the Two of Pentacles. To me, the way I see this is the Ten of Pentacles is, it's a good card. It's about abundance. Um, And I think in some way, I do feel like your energy is very high. Like you have a high vibrational sort of energy. You seem to be, I would say like if your energy, you affect people in a way that causes them to be more mindful. And you come across as a very sort of spiritual energy, like a very healing energy. I feel like, of course you must have done a lot of work on yourself. And it seems like you kind of show people that life can be good. Like you can have abundance. You can have the life that you want. Maybe you're living the life that you want and you show people like this is possible. Maybe you've been through some pretty negative experiences and you've had to heal those things. So if you've done that, other people can do that too. So yeah, I don't know. There's something about, and it could be that at some points people do feel a bit jealous and feeling like you have it easy in some ways because maybe you do live a good life, you're happy, you're content, you feel abundant, and the other thing is that the way I see the Ten of Pentacles is kind of like a commitment. Usually it can be about like family, it's also about work. And these things are positive things, but it's also like generally depicts like a family. Like there's two people here and we could assume they're committed to each other. I do feel like maybe the way you affect others is that you kind of say, like, you don't have to stick with something. Like, you don't have to stay committed to something that brings you heartbreak or brings you sadness or negativity. You can be brave enough to end things. And, yeah, it might be hard to go through an ending, but if it's bringing you negativity, you can't, think that it's a bad thing. Like things are going to turn around in some way when you do walk away from negativity. And yeah, it could even be like with the Two of Pentacles, I kind of feel like that might be taking on too much responsibility, like feeling very committed to taking on a lot of responsibility. And not being afraid to say no to some things. It could even be like within work, like being brave enough to say no to not taking on extra hours when you're already burnt out. Like it's okay, you can say no. Um, yeah, this could be that you have people around you that overextend themselves and it becomes like burdensome for them, but they feel like they're responsible to like stay committed to something. You might kind of come in and say like, hey, well, it's great that you want to be committed to this thing, but like, I don't know, it seems like people are affected negatively around you by the situations that they're stuck in, because it seems like there's like cycles that, people could be stuck in around you. And it's like, maybe you point that out, that it's a cycle that, it's constantly leaving them feeling heartbroken or sad or negative, and, they still choose to stay committed to it. And it's like, why? You don't have to. You can drop your pentacle. You can drop it. You can let it go. And, maybe it's people around you really don't want to disappoint people in their life. They want to stay committed. They want to be reliable. And it seems as if, like, those people, already are reliable. Like, they have no problem with that, but they should be taking better care of their energy, essentially. That's basically what I get for your reading. I hope that that makes sense. Maybe I'll sit for a few seconds, see what else maybe I could think of. Yeah, even in a love situation, like the Ten of Pentacles could represent like a happy family, a happy relationship, a stable relationship, a committed one. And then we have this Two of Pentacles with, is like a juggling energy. So it could be that there's people around you, especially if it's, related to love, that feel like they've been juggled by people. Like they haven't been someone's first choice. They haven't been someone that has, experience what it's like for someone to want to commit to them, something like that. I could see that here. And it's again, you encourage people to not accept what they don't deserve. And I think there's something about your energy that shows people that, yeah, you can heal. You can say no to what brings you negativity, and you can live the life that you want to be living. I feel like for many of you who chose pile one, you do live a very abundant life, and it's like, it seems as if you're almost meant to show people that they can have what they want in life, but it does take, being cautious with your energy, being mindful about things, and again, not accepting situations that bring you a lot of negativity, being brave enough to walk away from those things or put an end to those things. So that's basically a reading. I hope that it does resonate with you, and thank you for watching, and I'd love to have you back for another reading. Bye. Pile 2, welcome to your reading. So here's your mushroom card, and we're going to be taking a look at your effect on them. The first thing that came to mind just looking at this card, this is something I just kind of, made this connection. These, I don't know if you eat mushrooms like I do. These look like the ones you get from the store. Usually, like any store, like it looks like they have these mushrooms. I'm not sure if it's actually the mushrooms that you find in the store or not, but basically what I was thinking was that maybe your effect on them is something, if any of you happen to share what type of food you get, regardless of whether that's like at the grocery store or anywhere else, maybe your effect on them, maybe a specific person or people in general, if you post this on social media, maybe you influence people to get certain types of food. I think partially the reason why I'm thinking of that is because that is something that I've been doing recently, seeing food suggestions and trying out what people recommend. So if you do that, that could be, a way that you affect them. I also kind of get, for some reason, for some of you, maybe if this is about a specific person, not just people in general, maybe your effect on them could be doing sort of like practical favors for you. Like, would be like, yeah, picking up something from the grocery store for you, something like that. It's kind of what I was thinking, what comes through. So let's take a look at your cards. So the mushroom, what is it? It's a shiitake mushroom. So that's not the one that I was thinking of at the store, although the store does usually, I think, have shiitake mushrooms, if I'm remembering right. Anyways, it says nourish, elixir of life, whether physical, emotional, spiritual, mental, or creative, make a note of what needs more attention in your life and nourish it. Okay. Okay, let's see. So I think, basically your effect on them seems to be, I don't know, this seems a little bit similar to Pile 1. Like, Pile 1 had a card, I did Pile 1 a few days ago, but, like, it was a lot about, like, kind of encouraging other people to take, care of themselves, be a little bit cautious of where they're putting themselves, who they're surrounding themselves with, or like what they're consuming. And where it says elixir of life, I feel like maybe you pay attention to people's energy levels and you can tell when people are burnt out or tired. Maybe you would, suggest slowing it down or taking a break, or doing whatever someone needs to do to really take care of their body. Maybe it could even be related to what I said earlier with like suggesting certain types of food, or maybe it's not even like you're suggesting food, but you just post the food that you eat or something like that, and it kind of inspires people to eat in a similar way, possibly. Let's see, we have happiness. Yeah, I don't know. And for this pile specifically, it does feel like I am getting something about like a specific person coming through, rather than just people in general. And I do feel like, I don't know, it was giving me the feeling that like there's someone who likes you. Now, don't take this like too far if this doesn't resonate, but it does feel like for some of you, maybe there's someone who likes you, who maybe shares affection with acts of service type of things. So I don't know, like maybe if you notice someone randomly doing you a lot of favors or taking care of like your messes or something like that and like cleaning up after you, maybe it's like they enjoy doing that because they like you. Yeah, I do feel like you either make someone specifically very happy, or maybe, people in general around you. I feel like there's something about maybe you take very good care of your body, not just like physically, but, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And because you're able to do that, it does seem like maybe you come up like across as a very happy person, like maybe very fulfilled. And I think that like you set an example for what people can do to take care of themselves, to kind of nourish themselves. So we have kelp, and we have nostalgia. So yeah, definitely for some of you it seems like there's a specific person that maybe you're kind of having an effect on. And I do think it's like, for some of you, again, it could be someone wanting to do you a lot of favors. It could also just be, someone around you that, like, kelp energy is something that can be quite subconscious, and it can be something that either kind of lifts you up or drags you down. So I do feel as if, like, your effect on them, whoever it is helping them question what truly makes them happier, what's lifting them up in life, as far as like kind of like things that came up in pile one, like what they're consuming, like, not, well, for you, in your case, it could be food, but, usually when I say that, I'm thinking of like media and stuff like that, as well as like what environments they're putting themselves in or the people they're surrounding themselves with. And like for example, like if someone was really trying to accomplish something and it was bringing them a lot of frustration, maybe you would say like, hey, maybe you should take a break. It doesn't mean that you have to give up, but come back at this when you're in a better energy. Like there's something about energy levels, I think, coming through pretty strongly, and your presence seems to get people to notice their energy levels, and consider using their energy more carefully so that it does bring them more happiness in life. It could also be that, there's people here that, with it says nostalgia, so I'm assuming it's really just like supposed to be nostalgia or something like that. I've never heard nostalgia, but, it's, I think, you're a very like sort of uplifting presence in people's lives. I feel like you're a very supportive person. And I think, whether people notice it or not with the kelp card, like subconsciously you do lift people up. And, maybe when they're in their presence, they don't necessarily connect the dots that, when they're around you, they just seem to be so happy. Maybe it's, sorry, I dropped the card. um, maybe it could be that, there's past people who you're not necessarily, surrounding yourself with anymore. These people from the past, I feel like once, you're gone, it becomes very clear to them in some way that they're maybe, don't take this too intensely, this message, because, this may not be an extreme thing, and I don't want you to think that anyone that you leave their life, they're just like a mess and lost without you. Now, I don't think that's the case, but I do feel like, if you've left someone's life, like it becomes very obvious, like they're, maybe not as in a bright mood. Like there's something about their life that does feel a little bit more dull or dark. Not that they can't get through that, but I do feel like there's something about your energy where people realize once you've left that you did make a huge impact on, their vitality, their energy levels, or their happiness. Um, So yeah, I do feel like there's people who remember you, like it's hard to forget you, and when they look back on the connection with you, I don't feel like many people have anything bad to say about you and like what your presence in their life meant to them. Okay, so let's shuffle out like a couple cards and see, like more of your effect on them. Let's pile 2. Did I ever call you pile 3? I'm not gonna worry about it. If I did, I'm sorry. I'm like a little bit mixed up with the piles because I'm doing I did pile 1 a few days ago, like I said. Anyways, pile 2, what is your effect on them? Okay. So we have cleanse. Wash your weary spirit clean and take a walk in the wooded glades. What is pile 2's effect on them? Now, something interesting I was just thinking of too is that, like with cleanse, like it definitely makes sense that there's people around you, and your effect on them causes them to, question how they're using their energy, if they need to maybe cleanse their energy from something, kind of similar to the message that came through in pile 1. But I do feel like there's something about your pile where maybe it's like, this feels like you've affected the people that were close to you in your life more than where like pile 1 seems like maybe that's their effect on anyone. But for some reason for your pile it seems like you made a big impact on people's lives, with the people you've met in life. And again, like, oh gosh, what was I gonna say? Yeah, like maybe, it's like people didn't realize how good they had it when you were around, how happy you made them, and maybe it's like once you've left their life, it becomes clear to them, like maybe they're missing something. And so I think it causes them to, again, like maybe reflect and question their life a little bit, how they're using their energy, and again, if they need to cleanse themselves of things to bring in more vitality, more energy, and more happiness. What's pile 2's effect on them? Okay, we have adventure. Live wild and free. You have trust at the bottom of the deck too. Yeah, I do feel like there's something about you that comes across as, like, again, a very good influence on the people in your life. And I think even if you've left people's lives, like, when they look back on the connection with you, I don't feel like they can think of anything negative. All they can think about is maybe what, like you were such a good presence in their life. You maybe helped them out a lot. Maybe even maybe even you were the type of person to do a lot of favors for someone, and maybe it's like they realized, at some point that that was really helpful, or it really helped them feel good, or it made their life easy in some way, and maybe that encourages them to maybe be more of service to other people in their life as well. But I think you encourage, people in your life to be more adventurous. Like, part of this could be, if there are people around you who get very sucked into maybe very mundane sort of routines in life. It doesn't seem like they're really, every day is kind of the same for them. And maybe if you notice they seem to be lacking motivation or feeling bored or something like that, it's like maybe something about you and your energy influences people to consider trying new things, going to new places, to kind of get them out of a certain cycle or routine that might be dragging them down. kind of like what I was saying earlier. You know, if somebody was trying to accomplish something and it was making them very frustrated, like maybe you would come in and say, let's take a break, let's go on an adventure, let's do something new, and then we'll come back to this later, something like that. Okay, so now I'm going to pull some tarot cards. Let's see what else comes through as far as your effect on them. For pile 2, what is their effect on them? You know, and along with the fact that when people kind of reflect on their connection with you, especially if it's like an older connection, and it seems as if there's nothing they can think of as like your memory, the memory of you is like a very positive memory. It doesn't seem as if like really anything negative comes up. So I do kind of get this sort of idea for some of you. There could be people from your past that feel like they should have treated you better. And then maybe that's also connected to like if you've done them favors, something like that, and you really helped out in ways like maybe your presence being gone for some of them causes them to, you know, it influences them to be better in their relationships as well, maybe be more helpful or something like that. And it's kind of their way of saying, like, I should have done that for you. You know, if I don't have a chance to do that for you, well, I can at least do that for new people in my life, for other people in my life, something like that. Like, I really think your influence on people was very positive. So yeah, there could be like this feeling like I should have treated them better or something like that. Like they were so good to me, I should have been, you know, the same back or same to them. So yeah, with pile 2's effect on them. Okay, we have the 6 of Cups. Wow. Okay, yeah, there's definitely, it seems that, wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, there's definitely someone from your past, it seems, maybe multiple people who kind of can't forget you, you know, remembered how kind you were, how happy you made them. And again, maybe it's like they didn't exactly realize just how positive of an influence you had on them until you were gone, sort of thing. Like something just felt a little bit like missing, and it causes them to kind of think about, you know, what's the next step in life? What do I want? What's going to make me happy? And maybe, you know, not necessarily like relying on other people for that, but being more careful with their own energy to create more happiness in their life rather than, you know, expecting someone to bring them happiness, something like that. But yeah, it's definitely like I feel like you are such a good presence again in people's lives that it is hard for people to forget you, and kind of like forget the things you've done for them. You know, they can't forget the way you made them feel. Yeah, and I think it influences them in a positive way to make better changes in their life, you know, for themselves and the people around them. That's pile 2's effect on them. Okay, yeah, we have the 3 of Pentacles. I don't know. For some of you, it could have been like, again, maybe you were like, for some reason, I'm thinking of like acts of service. And like at first, I was thinking you and like affect other people in wanting to do more favors for others. But I think maybe, again, it might resonate that came from you doing that for, you know, someone in your past or something like that. Like with the 3 of Pentacles, that's about teamwork, cooperation, working together to achieve something. And I kind of feel as if maybe in the past you had people who maybe weren't really willing to put in that much effort to work together as a team with you. Like maybe, for some of you, it could be that you were doing a lot of the work in the connection to uplift the other person. And, maybe you didn't get a whole lot of support back. Because I get a lot of like, oh, you left. And, I can see what, such a big impact that you made on my life now that you're gone. And maybe causing them to want to be a better person, maybe a better partner, um, be more reliable as a person, or like the Three of Pentacles, especially when it comes to teamwork. Like, yeah, it would kind of maybe make sense they want to do favors for people, um, something like that. Be more present in connections, be more helpful in connections, put in more effort in connections to make sure, like, like you might have left a connection because someone wasn't putting in enough effort or something like that. And maybe they realize after you're gone, like, you can't just be lazy in a connection and not do anything and expect a connection to flourish like that. So I think maybe there's a realization there in causing them to, again, want to be a stronger teammate for people. What is pile two's effect on them? Oh gosh, okay. Yeah, okay, we have the Seven of Pentacles. And that, I feel like that just kind of fits in with the message I was already saying. Like, the Seven of Pentacles is about investing your energy. Whoa, sorry, like, knocked the mic. But yeah, not just like within connections, like investing their time into connections to make sure that the other person knows that they are invested. They do want to grow something and they do want the connection to flourish. And with so much pentacle energy, it does come across as like putting in physical effort, reaching out, talking, doing favors, things like that. And I do feel like there's something where they realize they didn't like maybe invest enough of their time or energy or effort into the connection with you. I'm really getting this sort of past scenario, so hopefully that does resonate. But not just within relationships as well, like with the Seven of Pentacles, like that is kind of like this being careful with your energy, making sure that where you're putting your energy is lifting you up rather than dragging you down, and being very conscious of that and careful about that. So I think that's kind of, your effect on them. Hopefully that did resonate. I'm probably going to end your reading here, but thank you for watching, and I'll see you back in the next reading. Bye. Okay, pile three, welcome to your reading. We're going to see your effect on them. You got this mushroom here. Pretty sure this one's called the shaggy ink cap. We actually have these here where I live. I've never seen one though. It is getting close to like mushroom foraging season as we're kind of approaching the fall time. So that's something I've been wanting to get into. So it's kind of like finally my chance to shine and do some mushroom foraging for the first time. So yeah, here's your card. The shaggy ink cap talks about growth and destruction cycle. Every stage of your evolutionary growth has a cycle and a purpose. So yeah, maybe it's like, it's a very common spiritual idea that, things happen for a reason, or, when we go through kind of like challenges in life, that it is for our growth. And a lot of the times we talk about going through somewhat negative experiences, or again, challenging experiences, and then coming through that or overcoming that, it's kind of puts you in a place where you're like, oh, I'm better off. And I'm kind of thankful for the experience. So maybe there's something about your presence or your energy that causes people to kind of feel relieved about the challenges in their life that they're going through, that it is for their growth, or that maybe even you've pointed it out for someone that, like, well, if it would have happened this way, like, you wouldn't be here and you're pretty happy where you're at now. So, like, couldn't you say that maybe, like, you should be thankful for that experience because it took you to where you are now? Things like that. Okay, we have finding love here. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's even like, ooh, like it makes me think of like a breakup that happened. Like maybe this is a friend of yours and they went through a breakup and maybe that person was trash and you're kind of like glad that that happened, although, it probably is hurtful for them to go through. Maybe they found a relationship that's better for them. Like it fits them better. There's, this person's kinder to them or something, or it's like something that they can really trust or something. So it's like, maybe you would point out, like, if you were still dealing with that person in the past, you wouldn't even met this new person. So that's kind of what I feel like kind of comes through here. But, and it doesn't even have to be that there's someone who found someone new, but maybe it's like, yeah, a lot of the times breakups are kind of, I don't know why I'm focused on breakups, but like they can be a gift. Like if you realize someone cheated on you, well, you don't want to be with a cheater. So it's kind of like, in a way it is like kind of a gift. So you can just move on and find someone better. So things like that. We have grasshopper. And we have tuning. Oh, interesting. Actually, with tuning, what it makes, he's like playing a guitar, and obviously he's probably tuning it so that it sounds good. But so usually I see this card as like making adjustments so that things are a little bit better. Like not huge, which is funny actually. So like the grasshopper energy is like about taking big leaps, making big, like maybe decisions, big choices, making huge changes very quickly. Where tuning feels like it's just making small adjustments. So I don't know, maybe you affect people to do one or the other. Like perhaps if someone was in a negative love situation, you might be, wanting them to get the hell out of there and like make a very quick change or jump or leap or, something like that. But what I was also thinking is that, you know, using an example of like, a lot of people do get into tarot readings for romance and love to kind of, figure out people's feelings and stuff like that. And then, maybe it turns them into a more spiritual person, and then they become maybe more focused on their life purpose, and they become like very interested in specific hobbies and stuff like that. And maybe channeling their experiences into some form of art or like, maybe even music for some. Now with these cards, another message could be, it could be that there could be people around you or someone around you, maybe if this has to do with love and like your effect on them is like your love interest that we're talking about. I do feel like your effect on them is feeling like, excited about a connection with you, excited about finding, their loving feelings towards you. Perhaps you've affected someone in a way that makes them think that, your connection with them serves a very maybe significant purpose. Like this does feel a little bit soulmate like. And yeah, I don't know, maybe you influence someone to, you know like maybe you could be a muse for someone in their art or their music, their hobbies or something like that. Like maybe you inspire someone, like you're their muse for creating something. And it could also be like, because I'm trying to figure out with grasshopper and tuning, because I see grasshopper as a very quick moving card, whereas I see tuning as like taking things slow, making small adjustments and not rushing or something like that. But I kind of get the feeling that, I don't know, maybe there is someone who kind of wants to like jump towards you, make a very quick move towards you, and it's like because they're very excited about you, you inspire them. And maybe it could also be that they feel like in times when they're alone or something like that, and maybe there's not a whole lot going on in the connection with you, they use that time as inspiration for their art or their craft or something like that. So let's see what else comes through. Like, what is pile three's effect on them? Yeah, it could even be that, like, there is someone who's interested in you, who prefers to move the connection very quickly. If you resonate with someone, like being someone who likes to take things slow in a connection, and maybe, you feel pretty confident, you feel secure, and you feel patient and independent, that maybe you're not like rushed in a connection. And I don't see this as a bad thing, and I think maybe if you resonate with that, your person doesn't take this in a bad way. It's not affecting them very negatively, but they kind of in times when they need to be patient with you, or again, there's not a lot of maybe interactions happening at that time, they feel comfortable to like just work on their things and maybe just keep you in their mind. Dropping cards, sorry. Yeah, and the card I dropped is growth. So I do feel like there's someone who wants to grow things with you. We have growth here in the shaggy ink cap. And if it's not about a romantic connection, like sorry, it could be, I don't know, yeah, just basically a love connection influencing someone to do more with their life is what I feel like is coming through. But yeah, let's see. What is pile three's effect on them? Forbearance. Do not be deterred by the thorn amidst the roses. Yeah, no, it definitely okay. It does feel like it relates more to what I was saying of like maybe having a friend where there was a love situation that didn't work out. And it's like, don't be like fooled. Like that's in hindsight, that's a good thing. And that just leaves more room for finding someone who's better for you. Something like that. Like you might have that sort of perspective when it comes to relationships. And I do feel like that allows someone to feel like maybe the situation is not so bad. Maybe there is hope for the future. I definitely feel like you kind of give people hope that, if a romantic situation didn't work out, well, then that's just going to leave you with more time and, like, kind of room to find someone new that's going to be better for you. What is pile three's influence or effect? We have flow. Go with the flow as the water trickles down a stream. Do not hurry. Yeah. And then for those of you, like, because I feel like there's kind of a split message going on here, where for some of you, this is like, someone around you's dealt with maybe a more negative situation when it comes to love, and you're able to point out that it is for their benefit in hindsight, and, kind of give them a hopeful sort of perspective for what can kind of come out of a difficult experience. And then for others of you with this flow energy is like, don't hurry. Like I do feel like for some of you, maybe you're in a romantic connection with someone, and maybe it's a newer connection, and you might resonate with, kind of liking to take things slow, not feeling the need to rush. And maybe you kind of slowed things down in a connection that was, feeling very intense or moving very quickly, and, kind of. And the thing I like about it too is that it doesn't seem like it's freaking the other person out. It seems as if there's something where they do feel comfortable with you, even if there is a bit of silence or a bit of patience that's needed. Again, it feels like they use that time wisely when maybe they're not around you, and kind of like devoting time to their other passions in life. And again, maybe keeping you in mind as like their inspiration or their muse for their like art or hobbies or something like that. So yeah, I guess you encourage someone to go with the flow, to not feel the need to make big leaps or rush or jump into things. What is pile three's effect on them? Whoa. Okay. Two of Cups. Yeah. Okay. That was cool because like pile three had this like nostalgic card, nostalgic energy coming through, and it. Of course, it's gonna make me think of people from the past, and then they pull the Six of Cups. So yeah, you have the Two of Cups. So this definitely seems to be about like romantic connections. It doesn't even like with finding love, it doesn't necessarily have to be even romantic connections. It could be people around you who had a very strong friendship connection and that friend betrayed them, and you help them realize that that's kind of a good thing that you're not around that person anymore. They were maybe a bad influence on them, and you can help them see that so they can feel more optimistic about finding someone new, something like that, regardless of whether it's a platonic connection or a romantic connection. And then, I do feel like for some of you, it's more about like, you've kind of struck someone in the heart a little bit. They're kind of interested in you. And again, I do feel like they feel that you are supportive towards them, even if, you might be quite independent or not feeling the need to rush. What is pile three's effect on them? Yeah, and I kind of just feel like overall it's just like giving people hope about relationships. Oh my god, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? We got the Knight of Cups, the Two of Cups. Okay, alright. Yeah, no, it's definitely like yeah, you inspire people that, okay, maybe even like, again, along with this idea of a love relationship not working out for someone around you, um, just feeling like optimistic that there's still love out there, that they can have the relationship that they want. And I don't know, yeah, especially for some of you, there's someone who's got their eye on you with the Six of Pentacles. I'm not going to take it. But yeah, there's someone who feels like you're a very supportive energy. They feel very good about you. They feel very good around you. They have maybe, with the Nine of Cups and the Two of Cups, very good chance they have romantic feelings for you. Yeah, and even like it could resonate that, this sort of like, growth and destruction cycle. Every stage of your evolutionary growth has a cycle and purpose. If, especially with forbearance here, it does make me think of like a challenging situation or a situation that seems a bit negative. And maybe it's like, for your person, whoever this is that's got feelings for you, it's like they still feel relaxed even when, there's a need for patience or there's not too much going on. Like, again, it doesn't feel like it freaks them out. And that kind of tells me that they trust you. They trust your intentions. It feels like they feel like they know you, they see you. You're not, misleading them in any way. They don't fear those things. So I do feel like they feel very comfortable even with, like, within challenges within your relationship. Like, it doesn't, maybe in the past it made them feel very unstable in other connections, but with you, there's something reassuring about your presence and your energy that makes them feel like they can handle bigger challenges. And that goes for like even just friendships that you're around that maybe love relationship didn't work out. And you make them feel like that's, like it's not really a big deal and it's going to lead you towards something better at some point or something like that. Like you're giving hope. What's pile three's effect on them? Okay, and then we have the Four of Cups. So the Four of Cups is interesting to me, especially in this deck. And first of all, we have all cups here. So I feel like your effect on them, you really affect them within their like emotions. And I do feel like you come across as a very comforting presence and kind of calming people's emotions, especially more negative emotions. Um, and this does have to do with like probably romantic connections. And with the Four of Cups, usually how I see that is, yeah, like for those of you who resonate more with this idea that there was someone around you that went through a negative relationship experience, and maybe you resonate with maybe thinking it's a good thing because that person was like awful to them or something like that. Like I don't know, because we have two cups here that are perfectly visible, standing up straight, and then we have these two cups here, which would be adding it would be like four cups, but it's like murky. You can't really see it too well. To me, I see it as like some sort of illusion, or like in this case, like I would say it's like a dreamy sort of perspective being shattered, but not in a bad way. Like if there was someone who was having a very hard time getting over an ex, and maybe they can only think of all the good things that happened in that connection, and maybe you come in and remind them, well, it wasn't all good, and maybe in fact most of what they said about the connection was quite negative. So maybe you remind them like, hey, you're looking at this in a very dreamy way, and that's why it's difficult for you to move on or get over it. And maybe it's like you come in as a more like sort of realistic, maybe wake up call for them that like, again, this is not a bad thing. It is a good thing in hindsight. And kind of like forgetting about old connections and being inspired about meeting someone new, finding someone who's better for you. And I also kind of get the sense that, again, if you resonate more with like you have a love interest right now and you feel there's someone interested in you, it seems like, again, there's this energy where they don't feel the need to, I guess, wonder about the connection. Like there's something that feels very real about your connection, which is why it seems like they feel calm even when maybe they're not in your presence. Like they're not super worried, and it makes me feel like they trust you. And it's kind of like, I kind of see the Four of Cups in this case as like, again, a very dreamy idea of something, and then what's real up here. So to me, it almost makes me feel like maybe you're dealing with someone who didn't always see like relationships or connections clearly in the past, which caused them to maybe be like, misled in some way. Like they had a very sort of dreamy or hopeful idea of what could happen in the past that maybe it didn't work out like that. And maybe they feel this fear that a relationship is never what it seems to be, that they always need to be on guard or cautious in a connection. And I feel like there's something very strong about your connection that makes them feel like they don't need to do that, that they do see what's real, or it's not like they're making this, a fantasy, something like that, which makes them feel calm and like they're in the right spot and they can trust you. Again, things like that. So that's your reading. I hope that it resonated. Sorry for like the double message and going back and forth, but hopefully there's a reason for that, and that, people needed to hear different things depending. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you back in the next reading. Bye. Okay, pile 4, welcome to your reading. So we're gonna see what's your effect on them. Could be a person, or people in general. So far it seems like pile 1 might have been more like people in general. Pile 2 and 3 seemed a little bit more personal, so I guess we'll see with your pile. So here's your mushroom card. It's like a purple mushroom. I've never seen this one. So let's see. Amethyst Deceiver. Interesting. Deception. Things may not be what they seem. Pay close attention to see what is really in front of you. Interesting. So yeah, I don't know, maybe it's like you break illusions for people. We were kind of just talking about that in the last pile, although that wasn't really like a strong focus of their reading. So yeah, like yeah, maybe helping people pay close attention to things, maybe not live in a fantasy, or to see things very clearly. Maybe you're very good at telling when people are being, deceptive, when people are lying, or when people are not being honest. And in this case, maybe it's like your effect on them is like, getting them to see when they're like fooling themselves, not necessarily maybe someone fooling them, something like that. Let's see. We have destiny. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Like, okay, maybe this might be like a purpose of yours. It's kind of like, unfortunately, people don't really like this when illusions are shattered. People, a lot of the times, would rather kind of just live in a fantasy, which is interesting to me because it never seems like the better option. Like, yeah, it feels good to fantasize and to leave it, like, live in this, like, dreamy sort of mindset, but when those dreams are constantly being shattered by reality, that's difficult to handle. And it's a lot easier to kind of just be very honest about things, see things very clearly, even if it's not comfortable or even if it kind of hurts. Because you can kind of process that a lot quicker when you kind of just jump into it and just like face it rather than try and avoid, reality or the truth of a situation. And I find it interesting too because this card, he has like, well, interesting. He has a bunch of armor, but then there's like a key in his back. And actually, I never noticed his chest is a cage. So to me, the way I see this is almost like, you know, we talk about love situations a lot on, in this reading specifically, but to me it's like a heart that's being locked by like an illusion or something like that. So the way I would see it, like maybe especially within love connections, like having these loving feelings towards a connection that you could very clearly see is not going in a very good direction, but maybe it's people who can't let go of past connections, prefer to live in a sort of illusion. Like to me, I always think of like tarot readings very much encourage people, knowingly or not, to stay sort of stuck on someone who's, not really pursuing them, and kind of coping with it and making up for it by watching tarot readings. Because I assure you, if you're happy with your connection, you don't need to be watching tarot readings about it. And again, I kind of talk about like, tarot readings for love make sense when it's a new connection and you don't really know the person too well and you're kind of curious about how things are going to go or what's going to happen. Or even with complicated connections where things are a little bit rough, like it would make sense to maybe want to watch a tarot reading about it. But watching a tarot reading and watching many tarot readings for months and months over the same person where nothing's happening, I would never encourage that. And maybe you're someone who doesn't encourage that for other people as well. Like if their heart's going to be stuck and kind of trapped on someone who's not pursuing them, like maybe you make people aware of that. And although maybe people might not be the most appreciative of it because, you're not telling them what they want to hear, it does, I feel like kind of give them this key to kind of unlock this, kind of cage that their heart has been in, kind of free their heart a little bit, something like that. And even like I was kind of trying to say that he's got a bunch of armor on, so like maybe that would be, kind of like maybe in a situation where, maybe people are easily deceived. You might think like they might be kind of naive and maybe they need a bit more armor, they need to protect themselves more, something like that. So that might be kind of like your effect on them. Yeah, okay, we have Wisteria. To me, this is like a commitment card, like kind of like a wedding card, a very romantic card. So yeah, I don't know. This is like committing yourself to someone who is leaving you feeling like nothing's really there. Nothing's really happening. Like, it could be watching tarot readings. Like, and this is something that, sorry for bringing up all these like concepts or ideas relating to your reading, but like, something I do, like I'd be watching a reading. And, usually tarot readers, when we're thinking about, like, we're doing a reading on, like, their thoughts and feelings, majority of people watching those types of readings are there for love connection. So it makes sense to kind of just already be in that mindset for a reading. But I've noticed for myself, I'll watch like what are their thoughts of you reading. And it doesn't necessarily specify it's for love connection, so I watch it for a platonic connection, and then immediately get like throwing out words in the reading like commitment and marriage. Well, if I know I'm watching a reading about a platonic connection where there shouldn't be ideas of commitment or marriage necessarily, and those are the messages that I'm receiving, you can kind of guess that maybe sometimes readings are not really reliable when it comes to love situations. And who knows, if the reader is just, kind of like really reading into it, and it may not be exactly your message, but you could just take it anyways because you're there for a love connection. If I could watch a reading about platonic connections and, very like deep sort of words like commitment and marriage is coming up, and that's not what the connection is even about, we don't want to be taking love readings so seriously. Like, they are for fun. They're not meant to be taken like to heart. And sometimes it's a bad thing to be watching love readings on someone who is avoiding you or not pursuing you. It's not going to be, something that's good for you, essentially. Although it could feel good in the moment, of course, in the long run. Again, it's kind of like reality shattering your dreams, your fantasies, because it's not what it really is. Getting people to pay close attention to what is really in front of you, not what the readings say, not what your fantasies want to believe, but what's really happening. And is that okay with you? Do you really want that? We have investment. Yeah, and, kind of like investing your energy in the right ways, in things that are actually going to be growing. Um, Yeah, so I kind of feel as if, because investment to me is like putting in energy towards something. It's not like big things, but it's like maybe a little bit each day to ensure something is developing or growing. So maybe it's something where you help people pay close attention to that. Are they giving you little bits of their energy consistently every day, and it's growing into something, or are you just hoping for that and that's not actually what's kind of happening? I do think overall it seems like your effect on them seems to be definitely about connections, love connections, connections where someone wants commitment. And again, with this sort of deception energy, is just like helping people understand whether they're living in a fantasy or living in like reality, and maybe helping them realize that it's not really the best thing to be living in a fantasy if this fantasy is constantly being shattered by reality. Being brave enough to kind of free your heart from a situation where you want that and you're not getting that, and to carefully invest your energy in connections that really do show you that they are putting in effort and energy into the connection. So let's see, what else? How does pile 4, what is pile 4's effect on them? Joy. Okay. Spread seeds of joy like a wildflower, and no doubt you will revel in the result. Interesting. Okay. What is pile 4's effect on them? I don't know. I do get the sense that, probably not for everybody, but it does make me feel like a few of you here could actually be tarot readers yourself, and maybe you don't, encourage the idea of, staying committed to someone who, again, is not giving you their energy or pursuing you, or there's no growth happening within the connection. But I also feel like there's something coming through with joy, destiny, wisteria, that you do encourage people that there is someone out there for them. And again, this idea with like destiny, where it's like being brave enough to free your heart from, an old connection that's not really growing, to be brave enough to move away from that, to free yourself from that, and to eventually, find the connection. And this kind of came through in pile 3 too, but to eventually find the connection that is, showing commitment and things like that. So, I want you to know that, like, as much as an energy, if you do resonate with kind of sort of like, not encouraging self-deception in connections, or even, deception in connections, from the other person. Again, it's like maybe you often tell people things that they don't really want to hear, and it kind of sucks to be that person where people kind of, hate you for what you say, and your intentions behind it are nothing but positive intentions. It kind of sucks to be that person, but I want to like reassure you that that's not all that you do, and like you do encourage people to feel happy about, where they're going in life, that, you do give people like hope, that, there is someone out there for them, and that, the sooner they free themselves from past people, the sooner they can kind of move towards someone new that's, going to show them commitment and things like that. So it is a good thing, although I don't know if you resonate with, that message where, yeah, people might not be so happy about maybe the things you say, although again, it is coming from a good place. Sometimes it's hard for people to see that. Yeah, we have caution just flipped out. Tread softly to, hold on. Tread softly so as not to disturb the woodland floor. Yeah, again, it's just being cautious about where you're investing your energy, who you're investing your energy into. And if it really truly feels like that person is committing themselves to you, then that's great. But if you're not seeing that, and it does seem like, it's like a need to pay close attention to what is really in front of you, not what your fantasies say, not what you want to believe or what you want to happen. Like something, another thing that I think about when it comes to someone remaining stuck on someone, usually, in my idea, from what I think, usually comes from this, like, having a past with someone that you keep thinking back to. And it's this very strong hope that you could recreate the past with that person. You can bring back in that energy that you once had with that person. And just that hope of, recreating the past just keeps you tied to that person. For me, it's more like, because I've dealt with this energy a lot in my past. For me, it's, I'm usually more of a future focused person, so I'm not going to be the type to really reminisce on the past too much, but I really do focus on the future and what's possible and potentials. And I kind of found that, I was really clinging to a potential of what could be with someone, which, made me stuck on someone for a very long time. And so, and kind of knowing that, it's like, do I want to be living for a potential all my life that I'm never seeing in reality? No, I decided I didn't want that. So maybe that's kind of like something for you, where it's like, you question, do you want to be living for a potential, for what your fantasies want to see? Because it doesn't seem like that's what's happening, and what's really happening is kind of dragging you down, or it's not what you want, it's not making you happy. And there is a need to be more cautious, and kind of like what I was saying, like, don't be so naive, put on some armor and protect yourself. Be slower, slowly invest your energy as you see that they are committing to you. Don't give them the commitment immediately if they're not giving that back. And yeah, just being cautious with where you're putting your energy. I think that sort of message that came through in all readings, and it kind of makes sense. I'm assuming we're all spiritual people here, and we are all kind of aware of like how we use our energy and how important it is to be careful about how we use our energy. Um, so yeah, let's see. Let's pull a couple tarot cards, see more about your effect on them. So what's pile four's effect on them? Okay, we have the Fool. What is pile four's effect on them? Oh, gosh. Yeah, oh my gosh. Okay, we get the Seven of Cups. There's the fantasy there. Yeah, and I don't know, the Fool, like, the Fool is not a bad card in any way. Generally, like, the Fool can be a very good card when we've been holding ourselves back from taking a leap of faith towards something that we really want to go for or something. And usually it's this idea that you can jump forward and you'll be okay. And I think it's like, maybe it's that you do reassure people that, yeah, they can jump into something, and maybe even if it's, was just a fantasy, they will be okay. People are resilient, people are strong. A lot of us, we all have very challenging experiences in life that, if we're still here, we overcame them, or we at least dealt with them to some extent, and we're strong enough to kind of carry on. So I do feel like you reassure people they are strong enough, even if things don't go well, if they didn't go the way you imagined, you'll still have chances to, create what you want in the future. Don't, like, maybe essentially don't give up just because, a few situations didn't go well. But yeah, like, the Fool in this case I would see is like kind of a careless energy. Yeah, again, just kind of jumping into things without, overthinking anything or much thought. And maybe, maybe it's like this idea of like, I watched a tarot reading that really gave me these like really great uplifting messages and told me all these good things are going to happen. And although that's not really how things are going in reality, I really trust what the tarot reading says because I'm a spiritual person. And then they jump forward thinking it's this like big fantasy that they had in mind, and then maybe it's not. And I don't know, I just feel like it's this idea that it's like you need to be cautious, you need to be slow, you need to know what you're getting yourself into, and not just believing it could be anything that's amazing. Because a lot of the times, like, to be honest, relationships don't usually work out. It is very rare when you find someone you're compatible with and, they're just as committed as you. It's not really that common to come across, well, at least in my experience, it's not been that easy to come across. So it is important to kind of take things slow and to not really hope for the best, because chances are, in most cases, things don't always go well. And you can't always just be having this very dreamy idea and be constantly crushed by reality. If you kind of have very realistic ideas or expectations going into the experience, you're not going to be as shocked when things don't go as planned or what you imagined it to be. And even like, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that there's people around you who are just never seeing situations clearly, but I've also noticed within my experiences that sometimes I've taken action thinking, something amazing could come from that, and then it doesn't really happen that way. And then it can cause you to feel like nothing will happen or things are really bad because it didn't go the way I thought. And maybe part of your effect on them is to kind of say, like, just because a situation didn't go as great as you think doesn't mean it's necessarily that bad either. Sometimes people get a very negative idea of what's going on, and that's not even true. So it could even be things like that. Like, maybe you're imagining the worst possible scenarios and you don't need to. You can just kind of jump in and see what happens. And yeah, it might not go great, but it might go really well. Like, you never really know. Until you try, like, maybe there's that there. Like, if you want to see what happens, you need to kind of leap for it and see what happens and just go for it. Because if you just think about what could go on, and you never take action, well, then none of those possibilities are even gonna happen if you never take the chance. What is Pile 4's effect on them? Okay, here we go. We have Justice. So by the way, we do have a lot of air energy here. We have Aquarius and Libra coming out with the Fool and Justice. But yeah, I don't know. I do feel like this just kind of ties into what I've been saying, like with Justice, like is about balance and fairness, and to make sure that you're not over investing yourself into people or situations that are not, giving equally back. I think there's like people around you who have struggled with overextending themselves or putting too much, committing too early to a connection that hasn't even shown them that it's worth committing to. I also see the Justice card as sometimes like being an ending to a situation. And yeah, it's kind of like maybe encouraging people that, again, if they're not seeing the same sort of effort being put into the connection, to not be afraid to kind of end it and to realize, like, yeah, maybe it's just a fantasy and that's just all it's going to be with some people. And to be brave enough to acknowledge that and to really see that. And, again, this sort of energy where with the Destiny card, of there being like a cage around his heart, and there's this key kind of unlocking the cage so that they can free their heart. I kind of see that as the Fool energy of like letting go and just moving on, and just kind of being a more adventurous energy towards like, because the Fool is also about starting something new. So being brave enough to kind of dissolve this fantasy you have of someone and be brave enough to start something new and to move in different directions, and to not always just be living in what could be or what's possible or what's the potential, and constantly clinging to a potential, whether that's like what could happen in the future or someone from their past, and this like potential of recreating the past and bringing that back. Like, if it's just the potential and you're not seeing that in, reality, then, I think you encourage people again to kind of be brave enough to move on from that, to start something new, to put an end to something, and to find something that's more balanced and more fair. So that's your reading. I hope that it resonated with you, and thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next reading. Bye.